For almost 30 years, Voller Law Firm has been winning serious injury and death cases for clients. They have collected millions of dollars on behalf of their clients and belong to the prestigious $1 Million Advocates Forum. When insurance or a wrongdoer won't pay for what they took from you, go with an award-winning firm with a track record of results. At Voller Law Firm, results matter. Make sure you go with lawyers that have the experience, ability, and financial power to hold those that hurt you accountable. Put your trust in Voller Law Firm. Give them a call at 662-323-0083.
You're listening to Thunder and Lightning on SuperTalk Mississippi, covering Mississippi State sports like nobody else. With Sports Talk Mississippi's Brian Hadad and Robbie Faulk of On3 Sports. Now get ready for Thunder and Lightning.
This is Thunder and Lightning here on SuperTalk Mississippi. Brian Hadad and Robbie Faulk here with you on a Thursday morning. Thanks for joining us at supertalk.fm or wherever it is that you get podcasts from. We appreciate you guys out there, our great listeners, especially our servicemen and women out there taking care of us. I want to thank our sponsors over at Strange Brew Coffee House and Churn and Spoon Ice Cream. Start your day the right way with a trip to the drive-thru over at Strange Brew Coffee House here in Starkville, or at Brupolo over in Tupelo. Be a little weird, Robbie, if Brupolo was in Hardy.
That would be really weird.
Not the guy. It's a town. It's near Grenada.
Is it a town or is it a community?
Well, it's a community. It's near Grenada. It's
Okay.
in Grenada County. Wherever you are in our great state, you can enjoy Strange Brew Coffee each and every morning. It's just a click away at strangebrewcoffeehouse.com. The Mississippi Beef Council wants to remind you that beef, it is what's for dinner. If you're cooking out this weekend, nothing beats the sizzle of beef on the grill. If you're not cooking out and you want to let somebody else do the cooking for you, we have got steakhouses in this state, from South Haven to Biloxi, from Vicksburg to Meridian. Wherever you want to go and get a steak, you can do it and eat a great one here in the great and sovereign state of Mississippi. So go do that this weekend if you're not. We're hoping beef's on the menu at Davis Wade Stadium on Saturday. It should be on your menu wherever you are this weekend. Beef, it's what's for dinner. Thanks to our friends, the Mississippi Beef Council. College Corner, collegecornerstore.com. That's the place to find the maroon and white merchandise that you are looking for. It is a maroon interlocking kind of weekend. So if you haven't already, head over to College Corner to get that maroon interlocking polo or t-shirt or hat to wear to the game this weekend. 2 locations in the Jackson area to serve you. Ridgeland by Fleet Feet, Flow by the Half Shell, or you can shop online at collegecornerstore.com. Restaurant Tyler, Starkville's flagship restaurant. For lunch, dinner, or Sunday brunch, the best meal in town is always at Restaurant Tyler. Sunday brunch this weekend. It's homecoming weekend. It's going to be a tough ticket. It's worth that wait, though. It's just a few-minute wait. They'll get you in and out. The service is good. The food is always coming out at a good rate. Sit down and enjoy the best Sunday brunch in the Golden Triangle with a trip to Restaurant Tyler. If you're going to be here this weekend, a trip to Restaurant Tyler is as much a part of the tradition of homecoming as a walk around campus or going to the game. Make sure you do it. Head over to Restaurant Tyler. Priority One Bank, 16 locations here to serve you throughout central Mississippi. Let PriorityOneBank.com be your guide and show you not only how they're going to help you invest and manage your money, but how they're going to help you prepare for the future. Now more than ever, when you have questions about your money, you need answers. You need to talk to somebody who knows you and knows your money, somebody who's going to take care of you because they know you, the person, not just you, the customer. That's what you get at Priority One Bank. Let Priority One Bank make you their priority. Before we get too deep into the show today, we got 2 great interviews today. We got Joe Cook from Inside Texas, the On3 website that covers the Longhorns. And then later in the show, Mark Etheridge will join us from D1 Baseball. We did get a question in about Vitello, even though I recorded this interview a couple of days ago. But that is obviously very timely now. I just want to point out that between the 2 guys talking to you right this second, Robbie Faulk, Brian Hadad, who is giving you more this week than the 2 of us? All right. You want coverage that don't cost nothing? Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't subscribe to On3. I'm an On3 subscriber. I'm actually an On3 subscriber, too. I'm not getting any complimentary things. They're awful tight with the purse strings over there, but that's fine.
Thank you for being a friend, Brian.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. But this week alone, Robbie, an hour-long sit-down with maybe the biggest star in country music right now with Hardy. I got you in the interview with Father Burke Masters, which a lot of people have said they really enjoyed, and I'm glad that y'all did. Today with Joe Cook, Mark Etheridge. Later this week, my conversation with former MSU offensive lineman Matt Caldwell will be on the show. to talk about the game between in 91 and 92 between these two schools. And, of course, the infamous Longhorn becomes a steer moment. Also, earlier today, I finished up an interview with – we have a rule here on Thunder and Lightning. National championship, you're on the podcast. The MSU Space Cowboys joined me, the national champion rocket engineering team. We talked about that. I thought it was very interesting. I learned a lot, and I found out I'm not as smart as I think I am, because there are a lot of people that are smarter. So all that great stuff here on the Thunder and Lightning podcast feed. Appreciate you guys subscribing, rating, and reviewing. And we're just going to keep on rolling. We're going to keep doing this great stuff. So let's get into this today. Here's my question, Robbie. This has been not a great season for the Texas Longhorns. Can Mississippi State add to their misery? Can Mississippi State go ahead? I don't know that we've talked about this enough. This is a knockout blow for Texas if they lose this game. They're out of the college football playoff. They can't afford any more losses. They have to win out. I guess there's a path they could get in. If enough things happen and they were to win the SEC. Got to remember that one of their losses is a non-conference loss. But just, you look around college football, some of the talking heads. I know that Gene Chizik and Matt Stinchcomb today were on the SEC Network talking about they think State can win this game. Ari Wasserman of On3 Sports said he's taking the points, which a 6.5 spread means he's got to at least think State has a chance to win. I was on ESPN radio today with our friends Drew and Scott in 97.7 over there in the North Alabama area, the Huntsville area, and they were both saying State can win this game. I think more people outside of Mississippi State are giving State a chance to win this game than Mississippi State people are. What do you think?
Yeah, totally. And first of all, I'm at my parents' house, so the internet might not be great. I went outside today, cranked up my truck, and it wouldn't start because the battery was dead.
Yeah.
So we might struggle through this, but I'll do my best.
Well, that's how I'm glad we have the interview, so I'll make it work.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, I think people at Mississippi State are just a little fragile right now because of what we've seen the last 3 weeks. And specifically last week, I think you could excuse the Tennessee game a little bit. I think you could excuse the Texas A&M game. Going to Florida with their coach's job on the line and laying an egg in the first half and then not being able to finish when the game was essentially gift wrapped to you, that has a lot of people skeptical. I totally get it. I will say this. I think this year's team especially has played really well at home. And, I mean, that's kind of the case for everybody, right? I mean, you play a lot better at home usually than you do on the road. But this team has played really spirited football at home, and they've been much better, obviously, at home than they have on the road. I think that plays a factor in this game. I think that you obviously have to guard against the fact that you just lost a game in devastating fashion, and the way I thought going in that A&M game, a lot of the same way. After coming off the Tennessee game and losing like you did was tough. How does this team respond to that? How does this team respond to 3 straight losses? Do they still have that belief system in them that they can go out and win this game? Because they're kind of a mess on offense. So the defense has been really good. I think the defense is going to be really solid, but Texas has been a mess on the offensive side of the ball. I think there's going to be another game where State's defense is going to have them in position to make plays to go win the game. It's up to this offense and Blake Shapen and Jeff Lebby's play calling. It's up to those guys to go make the winning plays. That's what you're waiting on with the State team. They haven't made those winning plays in the SEC play, and you're sitting here now in the last 2 years, you've only beaten one Power 4 team. So at some point, you can be as improved as Mississippi State is, and it still not matter if you're not winning games. They've got to go win those ball games and find a way to go grab a victory this week. So we'll see what happens.
I just look at everything. I was thinking about this today. Like, every game State has played has been about what State has done. And, Tennessee played a pretty good game against Mississippi State. Really good game. But if State had played their best, they would have won almost, I dare say, easily. Texas A&M, if State had played its best game, they would have been in the game in the fourth quarter. I would be willing to say that. I don't know if they would have won, but I know they would have been in the game in the fourth quarter with a chance to win. If State plays their best game against Florida, they win that game going away. like stadium shots of 5,000 people in Ben Hill Griffin Stadium because they're all disgusted by how badly Mississippi State is beating that team. And so that's what gives me, optimism about this is that if State could just get out of its own way, they can win this game. Because I had looked at the Texas Kentucky box score, but I really took a good look at it today, and it's just horrific how bad Texas played. They had 170 yards of total offense. They ran for 47 yards against Kentucky total. Manning was 12 of 27 in that game. I think State is better defensively than Kentucky is. And this game is going to be in Starkville. There's just something about it. I don't know that I'm going to predict State to win, but I certainly see how they could win. Let's go to this interview now. I talked earlier this week with Joe Cook, who runs InsideTexas.com. That is the On3 website that covers the Texas Longhorns. All interviews on the show, as you know, brought to you by Allura Modern Wellness. When you are looking to recover, you work out hard, you've got to recover hard. That's where Allura Modern Wellness comes in. They have an unbelievable number of services, everything that you can think of, stretching, heat, cold, relaxation, everything that gets your body back to where you want it to be. You will feel better walking out the door than you felt when you walked in. And, of course, as I mentioned before, if you go a little hard in the paint on one of these weekends and you need an IV, a hydration IV, they've got those now at Allura Modern Wellness. Make an appointment now at Allura Modern Wellness. AlluraModernWellness.com. You can do everything right there on the website. Allura Modern Wellness brings you this interview with Joe Cook of Inside Texas. Let's do an opponent preview. Let's talk about the Texas Longhorns with Joe Cook from InsideTexas.com. That's the On3 website covering the Longhorns. And we'll just start with the biggest picture question we can with this team. Preseason, number 1, number 2, depending on what poll you looked at. A lot of preseason hype. They've been good. They've won some games, but they have not been where you thought they were going to be back in August. What's the single thing keeping this team from achieving where they thought they could be at this point?
Right now, it's the offensive line. The whole time, kind of in the preseason, I'd been saying, if you're replacing 4 starters, 3 who went to the NFL, if you have options that are either third or fourth year players, or the one other example is a top 50 player from being a second year sophomore, it's a pretty good situation. Has not been good at all. It hadn't come together like Texas has wanted. They've had a rotating door at left guard. They have an injury at center that we're trying to figure out what that timetable looks like for his return. And they've not run blocked well. They've not protected well. So everything kind of falls from that. Arch Manning has, when he's had time, he's been inconsistent in a way that I think was shocking to a lot of people. And so a lot of the criticism he gets is deserved. A lot of the criticism that goes all the way to bust and flop, I think, is way too early. But he's not been good. He has not been put in good situations, nor has he really made a lot of the throws themselves. You'll see some wow throws, but then you'll see just some man, that was an open receiver. What are you doing? So at least on offense, they're struggling to do much of anything because that offensive line isn't giving a lot of time. Can't run as well as they'd like, can't pass as well as they'd like. And that's why Texas is winning its games with defense and over the last couple of weeks, special teams.
I really thought that win over Oklahoma might be a spark for this Texas team, but then they went to Kentucky, and let's just be honest. On paper, it looks like they lost the game. If you just look at the box score, you would never believe Texas won that game. What happened at Kentucky? And is this team different on the? I mean, the Oklahoma game is a neutral site game, but is this team just that different away from home?
It really feels like it. That Ohio State game, it felt all right just because, both those teams are kind of feeling each other out, seeing what they're doing in a new season after so much NFL turnover. But as the year has gone on, Texas' just inability to run the ball just makes everything go in the opposite direction. Their running back, Quintravian Wisner, real workhorse, but he doesn't really have any physical gifts. Kind of gets what's blocked, and if it's not blocked well, he's not someone who can take that and turn it into positive yardage. And those outside running schemes that they tried against Oklahoma to move that picture on a stout defensive front, just wasn't working and wasn't really even tried against Kentucky. So obviously, there were a lot of people who made jokes about like, welcome to a one possession game at Kentucky. You're an SEC member. And that's kind of what they try to do. They try to limit opponent possessions. Kentucky had the ball for almost 40 minutes, and made the most of a handful of opportunities, especially at the end. But it really just has come down to Texas does not have an offensive line that you'd expect a program like the Longhorns to have in year 5 with the same head coach and play caller, the same offensive line coach, offensive coordinator, a lot of same players on staff, or same coaches on staff, and with players who again had been in the program. So it's hard to see what their identity is on offense at this point. And like I wanted to say, like Arch Manning is not blameless in this. He does make some great throws, but he also just makes some inexplicable throws, and it's not necessarily bad decision making, but just like, man, you missed an open guy. Like, how does that happen?
Are you at the point with this Texas team where you just say they are what they are, or do you think there is still a ceiling that they could hit and they could become this team that we all thought they were going to be back in June and July?
Yeah, it's hard to think that they're going to get much better on offense. It's not like they're starting a true freshman at left guard, and again, they have their backup center playing these days. So it's not like all of a sudden those guys are just going to flip the switch and be like, oh yeah, I'm good at pass blocking and run blocking now. Offensively, it's going to be volatile. They have struggled to run the football against like talent. Not only just in the SEC, but even against some of their out of conference and playoff opponents. There's some, you can't take away one big rush, but there are a few rushing totals that are buoyed by one big rush. They're not even getting that this year. So on offense, they're going to try still to run the ball because Steve Sarkisian's not just an aired out spread passing guy, for better or worse, and it's gone worse this year. I don't see them getting better, but I do see, there's going to be some marked improvement just as a season goes on. If that's enough to really, not marked improvement, but it's guys getting in a rhythm, I guess. Is it going to be enough to help them get through this, the rest of this schedule? Because after they play Mississippi State on the road, something they haven't done since 1991, and so they've never done it in front of all the cowbells. Then they got to play a really good Vanderbilt team at home, finally get a break, have to limit Arkansas's offense. I think they have to play Georgia in Athens before that, and then Texas A&M comes to town.
Yeah.
So like it's either gonna all the games are gonna be ugly. I'm just expecting the under to cash and slogs to play out over and over for Texas.
When you have a 5-game stretch like that, we have a term for that. It's called "Welcome to the SEC." We
Yeah.
all know about it down here. Defensively, this team is very good though. And then they've been winning games with defense. Mississippi State, if you've watched them at all, you know that protecting the quarterback has been an issue for them. Is Texas's defensive line going to have a great day in Starkville on Saturday?
That's their hope. The defensive tackles may not be guys who rack up big stats, but Hero Canoe, Alex January, they've done everything they've needed to do over the past few weeks. Cole Brevard and I think maybe Travis Shaw. They're kind of the 1B wave of defensive tackles. They were there making that stop in overtime against Kentucky. So, and then that doesn't even talk about the pass rushers. Colin Simmons has really come on of late. I think he's got 5 sacks or almost 5 sacks in the past 2 games. Lance Jackson, a true freshman, has really started to play fantastic football. He's not in the starting lineup quite yet, but he's doing enough to where you wonder if that's coming really soon. The linebackers have been quality. Anthony Hill's making plays, not doing as much as a pass rusher, but a little bit of that is just by how he's deployed because he's so athletic and he's playing high-level football. And then the safeties are really just the backbone of this defense. Michael Taff and Jelani McDonald were on the field for over 80 plays at Kentucky. And it's not like they have, slouches behind them, but it just proves how important they are. Those guys have made sure that explosive plays have not really hurt Texas all that much this year. And they just are guys getting everything coordinated there on the back end. And they've done it against some tempo teams. I know Mississippi State with Jeff Lebby's system, they like to go fast. It didn't play out that way last year, but that's kind of a first year thing when you're overmatched. I don't think they probably look at this game and think, okay, we are not as overmatched as we were last year. Still might be, but it's probably a lot more even than it was. they probably anticipate that with Blake Shapen and with guys like Brennan Thompson on the outside, and depending on what they get from the running back position, they can run a little bit more of their regular offense, use that tempo, and really put pressure on Texas.
Yeah, you look back a year ago, that was Michael Van Buren's first
Mhm.
start of the season after the Shapen injury and going on the road to Texas. I think Levy did, in fact, really slow things down in that one. We would be remiss to not mention the fact that Arch Manning is a Manning, and the Manning name in the state of Mississippi, especially around Mississippi State, is not the most popular one. Well, we'll just put it that way. Archie with a win here. Eli won a game here. Peyton played here, but never won a game against Mississippi State in Starkville. Has there been any talk with Arch about the family history and with the Bulldogs and along those lines?
There wasn't much this past week, and it's kind of unfortunate in that way because if you're just playing a little bit above average, I guess,
Mhm.
like that's something you can talk about with, hey, what did Grandpa tell you about this game? And what did your uncles tell you about playing here? And what's this mean to your family? And he does get those questions, but I think Arch really tries to be like, yeah, I mean, I talk to my uncles every now and then and my grandpa, but like I'm with my teammates and sometimes we forget about that. He's not calling necessarily calling Cooper. He's calling Dad. So there's some of that's overblown. We haven't really gotten to hear much of from that direction or about that this week. He did talk a little bit on Monday, and he honestly did not put forth the best body language post game in Lexington. And this is probably the most difficult stretch of football he's ever had to go through. And I know whatever, Isidore Newman, they had tough games, but this is kind of the first time Arch Manning is probably dealing with failure as a starting quarterback. This is an important moment for him. It's another road game. He finally notched his first road win last week against Kentucky, but it wasn't much because of what he did. So, more so than the family history aspect, I think it's just Mississippi State's the next opponent, and this is where he's got to prove that he is better than what he's shown this year, or else some of the negative narratives are looking more and more correct.
There's something we do on the podcast when we preview these games. We give an offensive playmaker, a defensive playmaker, and then we do an X factor. That's a guy that maybe he just makes a play or two, but they're big plays within the course of the game. For Texas in this game, who's somebody you could see being an X factor for them?
Over the past few games, it's been Ryan Niblett, number 21. He plays a, kind of hybrid running back wide receiver role. So some of his touches on offense are telegraphed. But he has been he is either scored or produced scoring opportunities for Texas in the punt return game. He had that 75-yard return for a touchdown against Oklahoma that iced the game. He had two, I think, 40-ish yard returns against Kentucky, one that set up Texas' only touchdown, the other one that put them in position to kick a go-ahead field goal late, I believe. So that's someone who they're going to have continue to play well. Like I said, when you see number 21 on offense, it's not usually because he's a decoy. They're trying to reward him with touches, but everybody knows what's happening everybody knows that they're trying to reward him with touches. But keep an eye on him in the punt return game because that's where Texas has found some good opportunities lately.
We'll see what Saturday brings. It's a very interesting game as State tries to break this SEC losing streak, and for Texas trying to keep their college football playoff hopes alive. We'll talk about it more then. Joe Cook, InsideTexas.com, man. Appreciate your time. Safe travels here to Mississippi.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks to Joe for his time. Good stuff there. As I mentioned yesterday, he will be in Mississippi a little early to see his in-laws. His wife is a Bulldog, and they'll be enjoying a fine meal and some good times here in the Golden Triangle over the next couple of days. I feel this is something that one of those things where it's like if State was a little better, we could have some fun with this Manning storyline. But because they aren't, it feels like it's just not that a big a deal. But it should be, right? Like it should be fun that Archie Manning's grandson, the nephew of Peyton and Eli, all three of those guys have played at Davis Wade Stadium. Now it's his turn. There should be a little bit more excitement about that. It just isn't because of not only because of State, but because of Texas. They're not as good as they thought they'd be. He's not as good as they thought he'd be.
Yeah, and this is a chance, I think, to get a win over every single Manning. Did
So
we declare that or
so Archie, his last year is when State beat Ole Miss, but he didn't play.
okay? So don't count.
So he's on the team, but it didn't doesn't really count. But did
Don't
beat
count.
Peyton and did beat Eli. But you know what? You know
In
the
Starkville too.
strain, the DNA has gotten weaker through the years. Is how you could look at it. You know, Archie had what it took. Peyton and Eli, not that they didn't beat State. You know, Eli was 2-1 against State, and Peyton would have been 1-1 against the Bulldogs in his time at Tennessee. So we'll see. And Arch obviously got to start last year, so he's 1-0 against Mississippi State. So we'll see how it goes for him. All right, let's move into it. We're going to talk a little baseball here on the show. That's brought to you by our friends over at Two Brothers Smoke Meats in the Cotton District and the Older Brother, two of our favorite restaurants here in Starkville, and a great place to spend some time this weekend. If you're here Friday night, if you want to get there Saturday and watch some college football before you head over to Davis Wade Stadium, Two Brothers Smoke Meats is the place to do that. It's Wing Wednesday as we're sitting here today. I missed out on it. I thought about doing Two Brothers, and I was just like, I'm going to keep it simple today because it was just me. But if Robbie had been around, I think I probably could have talked him into Two Brothers. But you know, he's got his car trouble. I'm sure it's a big problem. That's
Battery went dead.
his battery went dead. Yeah, exactly. He'll do anything to avoid having lunch with me. It's just awful.
Yeah, I really hate lunch.
I mean, you're usually working through lunch, so it's
I had bumpers instead.
Oh, well, that's not quite Two Brothers, but it is what it is. If you want to have a better meal than bumpers, go to Two Brothers Smoke Meats in the Cotton District. Great products, great service. Every business likes to promise it to you. They deliver it to you at Advantage Business Systems. That's what they've been doing for 50 years.
50.
When you need technology for your business, give Advantage Business Systems a call. And then if you need service on said item, guess what? Same number, same people. You're not talking to a whole different crew. You're not making an appointment. They're going to come out and see you. A lot of times it's going to be the exact same day because they're in Mississippi just like you. 601-362-9192 or visit them online, absms.com. Find out how Advantage Business Systems will help your business do business. Are you going to be in Starkville this weekend? Then you already know you're making a trip over to Maroon & Co. If you don't have an MSU interlocking polo or an interlocking pullover, maybe a hoodie you want to wear this weekend, they've got all that over at Maroon & Co. And it's great stuff, and it's good looking, and it's sharp, and it's not the crazy Adidas, hey, here's a wide white band across the middle with some maroon verticals. It's none of that. It's the cool maroon and white gear that you're looking for with the logos that you want at Maroon & Co. Use our promo code Thunder15, or as apparently it's known as the Thunder and Lightning promo code, and save 15% off regular price. Some exclusions do apply. In-store or online at maroonandco.com. If you need MSU gear, the place to go is Maroon & Co. The place to go is Scruggs Farm, Lawn, and Garden. And if you've got anything to do around the house this weekend, do you have home repair projects? Do you need to get out in the yard, to get out in the garden? Or are you just cooking out? Are you wanting to get out in the woods? You got some hunting or fishing to do. Whatever it is, Scruggs Farm, Lawn, and Garden has something that makes your weekend better. There's a reason their slogan is, we have what you want for less. It's because they're honest people. They have what you want, and it's going to cost less than anywhere else you can get it. So if you're going to do anything around the house or out in the yard, cooking out, doing anything this weekend, I implore you to head to Saltillo, Mississippi to see our friends at Scruggs. If you're a landowner here in the state of Mississippi, you probably know the name Good Hope Land and Timber. They've been helping landowners like you for years deal with land and timber issues, whatever it is, plantation thinning, timber management, development, harvesting. Their team handles it all safely, efficiently, and most importantly, sustainably. That's a name you can trust. You know your land is in good hands with Good Hope Land and Timber. So whatever you're planning to do with your land, whether it's 100 acres or a few thousand, Good Hope Land and Timber is here for you. Locally trusted, landowner approved, Good Hope Land and Timber. Earlier this week, I talked to Mark Etheridge of D1Baseball.com. He was at the exhibition between Mississippi State and Florida State, so he had some early thoughts on what he saw from the Bulldogs. Also got his thoughts on the possible move, which now appears to be the move of Tony Vitello to the San Francisco Giants, and what that means for the pecking order in the SEC. It's all about the pecking order, brother. Right there. So let's get his thoughts now. Again, all of our interviews here on the show are brought to you by Allura Modern Wellness. Earlier this week, here's the interview. Mark Etheridge, D1Baseball.com. I was just saying before I hit record, a little odd to be doing a college baseball interview on October 21st, but that is the state of Mississippi State right now with the expectations. Mark Etheridge joins us, D1 Baseball. We've had him on the podcast a few times before. And Mark, you were in Pensacola this past weekend. You got to see Mississippi State versus Florida State. We'll get into that in just a minute, but we haven't had a chance to speak since the hiring of Brian O'Connor. I felt like that was the kind of move that Mississippi State was making a statement, that they were like, we are going to be a player in college baseball. No more, piddling around, basically. We have the facilities, we have the support. Now we have the coaches is kind of the statement I feel like Zach Selman made. What were your thoughts when you heard that Brian O'Connor was taking this job?
Yeah, well, first off, I mean, it's a move where you push all the chips in the middle of the table and you are all in on baseball right now if you're Mississippi State. And with the facilities, with the fan base, with the proximity to talent, with the NIL commitment, this is a program that can compete at the top of the sport. And now you have a coach with a pedigree who's proven he can do that. And he did it at Virginia, and quite frankly, Virginia's a good program, but it doesn't have near the advantages that a Mississippi State has. And so now he's in there. He has that track record. He understands what it takes to win. And now there's going to be some adjustment into SEC play, and of course, everyone's adjusting as the sport is changing. So he's coming in, and I do feel like he can take advantage of all the excitement around the program. And I can't imagine what the atmosphere is going to be like when Tennessee rolls in, LSU rolls in, buddy. I mean,
I wanted to ask you about Tennessee real quick.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's just real quick. As you were covering this game on Saturday, the news starts to break that Tony Vitello could possibly be headed to Major League Baseball. Now, I've always been of the opinion when you start to see things that say they've zeroed in on, that means it's almost done. But here we are some 3 days later, and it's not done. Is Tony Vitello going to take that job, or is he going to remain in Knoxville, in your opinion?
I think the longer it goes on, the less likely it is. I mean, he's had an offer, right? He is his job if he wants it. And in order to entice him to take the job, I mean, they've got to put together, what does it take, right? Because he certainly has leverage. But if I'm Tony, it depends on where you want to go with your career. Did you ever think growing up and getting into coaching that you wanted to be a big league manager? Well, if so, here's your chance, man, because even if it doesn't go well, he's going to have no shortage of suitors,
when he comes back,
when he comes back, right? And all of these big jobs, I mean, some of these programs may create an opening just to accommodate him should he want to come back, because that's about as sure a thing as you can get. Look at what he's done at Tennessee. I think the question for me about him, though, is, he's certainly a high energy guy, and that works really well in college baseball because kind of every weekend is like a playoff game, man. I mean, it really matters. And over the long run, 162 game season, you don't have all those ups, right? You've got to stay more even keeled. And I think because of that would be an adjustment. Not to say he can't do it. He's obviously very successful, but it would be different, right? It's just they're just different sports based on the season and how it plays out.
If Vitello takes this job and leaves college baseball, where does Brian O'Connor rank among college baseball coaches? I think Vitello is one, in my opinion.
He and Jay Johnson would be at the top.
No,
right?
Is O'Connor second, third, something like that?
He's in that short list, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say, Kevin O'Sullivan's there, Tim Corbin's there, Dave Van Horn is there. Is that tier, and then I mean it's preferences at that point. But I do think that because of the advantages that we talked about that he's going to have now, I mean Mississippi State could go on a run here and be back in Omaha, be a perennial Omaha team, that and win another one. And I do think that with playing in the SEC and having all these heavyweight matchups here, it's going to be amazing for the sport because the college baseball is better when Mississippi State's on top, because it's just a phenomenal environment for it's probably the best big event college baseball program. I mean, nobody does regionals better. Nobody does supers. Nobody does those monster, bring in 16, 17,000 people like the folks in Starkville do. And I think because he's going to be there, you're going to get more of those opportunities, and that's only going to help the program.
So that brings us to what was happening on the field Saturday in Pensacola at the Wahoo Stadium there. Mississippi State and Florida State. You talk about two power programs, two programs that have a lot of history against each other. Yeah. I had an interview earlier today, or earlier this week, with Burke Masters talking about going all the way back there. Of course, that was who State finished the season out against last year, was in the Tallahassee Regional. So these are two teams that, that should be a pretty good litmus test for both of them. What did you like about what you saw from Mississippi State?
Well, first off, to get a chance to play in a sold-out environment in Minor League Park, they had 6,000 people there. It was great weather. It was a great setting. It's definitely a pitcher's park. It's really hard to hit it out of there. I've probably seen 12, 15 games there. I may have seen one home run hit, and that was Saturday in college. I mean, it just plays so big. On the field, I think what stands out for me for Mississippi State is how deep the position group is. They are 15 to 18, depending on how you want to parse it, starter quality position players. And we were missing Ace Reese, we were missing Aiden Teal. So I feel like that's going to be the fascinating part for me, because the talent's there. And with Reese, you've got a potential superstar and probably some other guys who could get in there, because we weren't talking about Ace as a superstar this time last year, and he became one. So I do think that this is the kind of club that if they can play matchups, they can sustain injuries, they can ride the hot hand. There's just so many different ways that this lineup can materialize. And to me, that's going to be the fascinating part for State as and spring rolls around. What does that lineup look like, and how different is it from day to day? Because you're trying to keep all these guys engaged.
You made a tweet about this one player, Jacob Parker, who the reaction kind of says it all right there. Yeah. You said a guy like that doesn't come to college to sit on the bench. How big an impact can he have as a true freshman?
He looked really good. I mean, you could see what all the fuss was about. The talent, the measurables, all that kind of stuff is there. It's just how quick does he acclimate to SEC pitching. He handled Florida State pitching pretty good. Of course, you're seeing a lot of arms in the fall, but I do think that, I don't know where he plays. I mean, the outfield is so packed right now. But I do think that he's one of these guys that maybe he's not in the opening day lineup, but by April or May, I just don't know how you could keep him out if he continues to play near his potential. I mean, this guy's a superstar. I mean, he's going to be that guy.
The other freshman I think people are interested in is going to be on the mound, and that's Jack Bauer, number 24, which is hilarious. 100+ mile per hour left-hander. This is not the kind of player that normally makes it to college. This is a guy that you would normally just see go straight into the major leagues. That's another. I guess the question is the same. What kind of impact can he have as a true freshman?
Well, certainly the velocity's there. His first pitch was 101. I was just trying to think as I'm watching. I have seen 101 in person one time before. And I was trying to think, okay, have I seen anyone else? And then the next, like 2 pitches later, he's like 102. And he's got a 103 on his record book there, right? So this is a guy that velocity is there, and it's not like he's throwing max effort. It just looks so like he's out, just throwing 90, and he's whips in there at 100+. The question for him is going to be what does the secondary stuff look like? Because as hard as it is, and it is very hard, he's throwing really hard pitches. If you don't have something else that you can get over for a strike, they're going to sit on it, and people are going to hit him. So I think that's going to be the key. How quickly, and everybody knows this is not a secret, how quickly can he develop a breaking ball? The changeup he was throwing in at 93, by the way, 93 mile an hour changeup. I mean, what is that?
That's a fastball, man. That's not a change.
Right. For everyone else, it is, right? And I think that's going to be the key. What's his role? Certainly, I think he could come in and give you max effort for an inning, on a weekend,
Mhm.
and as he continues his acclimation. Or you could try to start him and stretch him out and hope that by the end of the year that he's figured it out. The concern is strikes and the concern is secondary, but boy, is it in there.
You remember? Do you
Yep,
remember a reliever named Jay Howell? Played in the majors for a long time.
I do. Yeah,
So
yeah.
I remember watching a game where Chris Berman was doing commentary. He said
Mhm.
he's one of those guys who changes speeds by throwing harder. I
Yeah,
feel like
right.
that's what Jack Bauer
Yeah.
is a little bit of.
Yeah, it's because every fastball is not 102, right? I
Right.
mean, he's got some high 90s in there, but still, I mean, it's just kind of when you have that kind of arm talent and the ease of the delivery, that's the part that probably struck me more. You expect a guy who's throwing that hard to just come out and look like Craig Kimbrell and just go in max effort, and it really wasn't that. So I think that's the interesting part because Brian, there's more in there
Hmm.
and he's already throwing 103 from the left side.
Yeah. What other names on the staff excite you?
So Tomas Valencius, I think that I'm saying that
You
right.
got it. Yeah.
So he looked really good. He's the Virginia transfer on the mound. His
Hmm.
his brother Vitas is also on the team as an outfielder. But he was the second pitcher in the first game, and Ryan McPherson was the first one, and he was good as well. That's going to give them a really good 1-2 punch. And I think those will be your Friday, Saturday guys. Sunday's kind of open. Charlie Foster is going to have a shot at that. He started the second game, was pretty good. But there's depth there. Maybe not the number of position players from a depth standpoint, but certainly there are plenty of guys to look at. I think Tyler Pitzer is a guy that intrigues me.
A
South
great
Carolina
summer.
for 2 years. Yeah, he was just a summer All-American, right? Came in and he could be a guy at the end of the game. I could see him being, filling that role. Another one to watch that I thought was really good was Dane Burns.
Hmm.
I think there's a chance for him to maybe he starts as on Sunday, or maybe he's the midweek guy because State's got some pretty tough midweek opponents
Hmm.
that especially early in the year that would be good, to play a Troy and a Southern Miss and get him in there and see how he handles those lineups.
So Mississippi State baseball always going to have high expectations. They expect to win, they expect to compete, they expect to be trying to be in Omaha each and every year. What's a realistic expectation when you look at this team? Is this? I just asked the big
Yeah,
question: Is this a team that can compete for a national championship?
I think so. I mean, certainly positionally, their depth stands out. It compares to anyone in the country, right? And now, high end, you've got an Ace Reese, you've got Noah Sullivan, who
Hmm.
who,
Had a
who I
great
feel
year.
like is going to have a big year again. I think it's going to come down to some of the new players like a James Nunley or maybe it's Parker, maybe it's some of the
Teal.
other transfers. Yeah, Teal exactly. Um, to see if they can take that next step and give that lineup protection.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do that, I feel like this is a team that can, that's going to be in the mix right at the end. And as we saw last year, regionals are kind of a crapshoot. You've got to have your A game, you got to get a good draw, you got to stay healthy, all of that good stuff. But there's no reason this team can't be in contention to throw a big party in May at home and then advance that all the way into Omaha.
I wouldn't think they are, but who is the favorite in the SEC? Just as we sit here in October.
Well, I mean, I would have said Tennessee up
Yeah.
until last week. I mean, I mean, that there's a lot of depth with that team. Um, I don't know that they have an Ace Reese, but they have just a ton of guys, and then that ballpark they're going to hit. LSU is going to be loaded again.
Mhm.
Just another really talented roster. Got some more freshmen that nobody thought would come to campus, like what we've talked about with Parker and Bauer. LSU's got some of those guys too.
Mhm.
That would be there. Um, I really like what Auburn's got coming back.
Mm.
They were a team that hosted, they were national seed a year ago, returned just about all the position group, and a lot of those guys are younger. You expect them to get better. And maybe Texas would be a team, they won the SEC last year. They returned almost all of their pitching, and
Mhm.
they added, I would say, newcomers who are more talented than the pitchers who excelled a year ago. And they've got a really good pitching coach in Max Weiner. I think that's going to be a good club. And I think offensively, they were a little light a year ago. They won with pitching, but they brought in some impact transfers like Aiden Robbins and Carson Tenney that are going to hit 3-4 for them and really elevate them.
Is it possible that Tennessee is kind of what Texas A&M was a year ago? I don't know if they're about missing the tournament, but super talented team, but that coaching change just changes the dynamic.
I mean, that's going to be a fascinating storyline, isn't it? I mean,
it'll be Elander if he goes, right?
You would think so. I mean, he's been on the precipice for years of taking another job, but he can afford to be picky.
He was on the hot board here. I mean,
yeah, right. And to get because the number, if you were the top assistant at Tennessee, that's a really good job, man.
Yeah.
And so you don't want to step away for just anything. So I do think he would be the choice. And boy, wouldn't that be something? Because Tennessee might have the best incoming, still high school players now, incoming recruiting class that anyone has ever put together. Now, you never know who's going to come to school and who's going to go to draft and all that. But if Tony leaves, what does that happen to this, heralded recruiting class? Because the guys that are on the roster now can't leave, right? They can leave, but they've got to sit out a year. So this year's impact won't be felt. But if he does leave, the question, all the microscope is going to be on, on Elander and what the program looks like post Tony.
I don't think I've been around it my whole life. I don't know that I remember this much anticipation for Mississippi State baseball and what we're going to see when February rolls around and we get to opening day. I will certainly talk to you between now and then. Mark Etheridge, D1 Baseball, man. Appreciate your time.
Absolutely, man. Take care. Anytime.
From Twitter, don't you actually me. I was trying to give you some information. I was trying to be nice. I was like, I didn't make you sound like an idiot. I was just like, I
appreciate that.
Do you? You put the guy with the big Mickelsons on there, actually, like I'm a nerd.
It kind of looked like you.
Hold on, let me.
You got more hair.
If I get these to sit on a shelf here. Hold on, let me squeeze them together. They're smaller than they used to be.
No, I appreciate you saying that because I totally forgot that Jay Johnson had gotten a raise.
Just a small raise, but he put him up over $3 million a year, and so
BOC is still number 2.
Okay, yeah, O'Connor is still 2, and Johnson is 1. He was 3 prior to this. I'm gonna say this as a San Francisco Giants fan. I don't know about this move just because it's unprecedented. But here's what I would say. The Giants over the last decade have finished second on some of the biggest name in baseball when they've been free agents, right? They were second on Bryce Harper. They were second on Aaron Judge. They got Carlos Correa in there, and then there was an issue. I don't know what happened. That's what it is. I don't know if they were second with Ohtani, but they were very much in the mix and couldn't get it done. I forget the name of the pitcher with the Dodgers now. The other guy from Japan, I forget his name. But they were in the mix there and couldn't get it done. I think that Buster Posey is a GM that players will want to play for, right? I mean, he's not that far removed from being one of them. He's a guy with probably a Hall of Fame resume as a player. I think he thinks that the culture is important and that he wants to try something different. And he's bringing in a coach who is known for being a player's coach, a guy that players are going to be able to relate to. He's still young. He's only 47. That's young, by the way. Just want to point that out.
It's almost 50.
Almost. So that's where I think the Giants are coming from. I think they're looking at look, in the game of baseball, if you have the best players, you're going to win. So what can we do to get players? And we're not going to spend $1 billion and then, defer it until the sun explodes like the Dodgers have. We have to be smarter. We have to do things a little differently. That's one of those things about Mississippi State. They say it a lot. Like, we got to do things a little differently here. When Cohen would say that, it would make me mad. It'd be like, no, that's wrong. But in this situation, I think it makes what he said. That statement makes sense. So we'll see how it works out. So that's what I think about the Giants. What I know is that Tennessee has no chance of maintaining, right? Vitello was that program. I think Elander could be really good, but he will not be as good as Tony Vitello. I feel very confident in saying that.
It's to me, it's almost impossible to replicate that. And that's why it's so hard for these teams that aren't traditional powers in these certain sports to maintain their status when they lose a coach like that. We've seen it before. We've seen teams that I mean, look at Mississippi State women's basketball. They're still fighting to get to the standard that Vic Schaefer had kind of placed on them. And it's very difficult if you can't get that stronghold and really invest in that sport consistently. Like, how does Tennessee fans react to this? Do they continue to pour into that program? I mean, to me, the only way for them to continue what Tony Vitello's done is to hire an elite coach.
Which they can't do at this moment. They
can't
have to go through this season with Elander.
So I think what they do is Elander is the guy that they name the next head coach, and you can't call him an interim coach. I've seen people say you call him an interim coach and then go hire a guy. You can't do that. You've got to name him as the head coach to keep everything together, to keep everything stable, to keep everybody happy, so you don't have the negative recruiting that's going to come with that. And so that's what they're going to be faced with now is Elander, who was going to be probably a head coach pretty soon anyway, is now thrust into there, and they try to do the same thing that they're doing, but I just think it's going to be very difficult.
I think only
here's the thing about
could do it. Is where I'm coming from.
I mean, here's the thing about Vitello is like he was the total package. He is the total package, especially when it comes to college baseball.
Yeah, pretty sure Lex Luger was the total package. But go ahead.
Yeah. If I see Tony Vitello putting Buster Posey in a torture rack, then
then you'll know.
But no, like for the college game especially, and in the NIL era, raising money, pumping up the fan base, like the marketing aspect of it, and then you get to the baseball part of things, and he was actually a great coach, whether it be the fundamentals of things, putting together a lineup, managing a team, recruiting, like he did it all. And so that's the challenge now is like Elander, he could be a elite recruiter.
Yeah.
But is he going to be able to do everything else in the same way that Vitello did? It's very difficult. It's very difficult to maintain that, and especially just pushing in the assistant that you have. Like sometimes that doesn't work. Like you think this guy's learned under this guy and he's going to be able to keep it going. It doesn't always work out that way. As a matter of fact, a lot of times it doesn't work out. So they might still be competitive, but it's hard to imagine them being at the national championship contender every year.
Very interesting. I just noticed this. Tennessee baseball has tweeted basically a goodbye tweet to Tony Vitello, but the Giants have not made the official announcement. But I mean, I guess that's as good as anything else. So Vitello to San Fran appears to be a done deal.
What that tells me is he's probably already talked to the team
and said
told them. So. Yeah.
And then just from the Mississippi State perspective, you heard Mark Etheridge there, very high. I mean, the last question I asked him was like, can this team compete for the national title? He did not hesitate. Yeah.
That's the expectation.
That's going to be the expectation. He made the comment that you and I have made and people on message boards have made of like, who are they going to start? They've got so many guys. I don't know who the starting nine is. How do you keep everybody happy? They have so much depth. And that is going to be, you think about a couple years ago, was it? I guess it was the year where they were actually pretty good, 24, when they went to Virginia. But we remember if they had to make a defensive replacement, or if they needed a pinch hit, like the pinch hitters were guys who were hitting 110 and or in some cases didn't have hits at all. And now you're going to have guys sitting on the bench who have been proven college hitters in their career, and guys who have done big things here at Mississippi State probably. So. To me, the expectations couldn't be higher, and the anticipation is as high as I ever remember for Mississippi State baseball. So, all right, tomorrow's show, you already know what the deal is.
I don't get to talk.
No.
Okay.
No. Is Big Daddy here? I'll get his thoughts.
Yeah, he's watching The House of Wax right now, I believe.
What is that?
Like 19. Like from like 1950 something.
Old movie. Okay, yeah.
Vincent Price. Yeah. My dad's big into the old horror films.
Well, there you go. All right. Do you have something you'd like to add? No, you're good. You're
No,
good
no.
now?
Why
All
should I
right.
say?
It's fine,
I've only been to like 5 scrimmages. What should I say about the baseball team?
Well, I mean, have you been to all the scrimmages like some people have? I don't know if that's the case or not. So,
No, I haven't.
eh,
Yeah, I was told a few years ago if you haven't been to a scrimmage, you can't even talk about the baseball team. So
true.
that
True
applies to
story.
you.
I just did though. I just did talk about them. I haven't been to a single scrimmage. I don't go to practice. Practice? I don't go to practice.
That's what I've heard.
Um, you've seen these scrimmages though. What do your thoughts? Just like I guess my overarching thought question would be this: do you see anything that doesn't make you think this is a team that can compete to go to the College World Series?
No, no. Um, Now I haven't been able to see like all the weekend guys.
Right.
That's because I can't go on Friday nights, and that's when they all pitch. The Thomas
Right.
Valenkus, the Ryan McPhersons,
Mm-hmm.
Jack Bauer. Like I'm seeing a lot of like the guys that I think are going to compete for midweek spots, but even those guys are throwing strikes. They're getting outs.
Mm-hmm.
But I was up there with Mike Nemeth and Logan Lowry yesterday on Tuesday, and we were just talking through like building a lineup. And I'm sitting there like every guy that's coming up, I'm like, how do you keep him out? I mean, how do you keep him out? And we're not even seeing right now Aiden Till and Ace Reese, who I would
Right.
consider probably their top 2 players. They're not even playing right now.
Yeah.
If they played just this lineup, I think that they would be pretty daggum good, just without Aiden Till and Ace Reese.
So then you add those, and you're like, what are they?
Those are 2 potential All SEC guys.
Yeah.
So, there's some question marks on who fits where, and middle infield. What does that look like? What do you do with Garrick Fry? We were talking about. I was talking about Gatlin Sanders with Mike, and I was like, I mean, we say that like we keep talking about this guy like he shouldn't, like people keep talking about him like he shouldn't be on the field, and he's like a 320, 330 hitter. Like he still does a lot of really good things. He's a really good defender. If that guy's like a late inning defensive replacement or a midweek starter or whatever, I don't know what their plan is for him. I think he's going to compete for a starting spot, but that's a pretty darn good baseball player right there. So there are so many options with this team, and that's what's so great about it because there's going to be 3 or 4 guys that somebody pulls a hamstring, somebody gets hit on the hand,
Right.
Hit by pitch. You're going to slide someone in that is capable of doing just about the same thing as the person that's you're taking out of the ball game. And on that same token, it's constant battles with the guys for playing time, and that all that does is create more competition, and it makes players better. This is going to be a really, really tough out. Is Mississippi State. They're going to be fundamentally sound. They're going to throw strikes. They're going to be a really good pitching staff. It's one of the most talented, one of the most deepest teams I've ever seen at Mississippi State. I texted a couple of people yesterday and told them this might be the best Mississippi State team I've ever seen in person. And that, again, that is without an All-American third baseman and a potential All-SEC center fielder.
Yeah.
That those 2 guys are out. And what I'm seeing on the field, I don't feel like it's hyperbole. I think this is one of the best teams I've ever seen from a talent perspective and depth.
Long way to February, my friend. We're gonna have to wait it out, I guess. Though, but the good thing is, basketball is gonna be really good too. So we don't have to just suffer through it. Looking forward to it.
There we go.
All right. You know what tomorrow is? It's the 3 piece. We'll be back tomorrow with our preview, playmaker, and predictions for Mississippi State versus Texas. Until then, for Robbie Faulk, I'm Brian Hadad. Thanks for listening to Thunder and Lightning here on SuperTalk, Mississippi.